doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to go ahead and give her one anyways. So Barb has been in real estate. So this is Barbara Best. She's been in real estate since 2011. And for the last 5 years, she's been farming a pocket in the beaches, which is what we're going to talk about today. When she started her farm, her income had increased by 250% within 2 years. And she went from 150,000 in commission to 520,000 in commission and has increased every year since then. So she's had just explosive and tremendous growth in her business since she began this strategy. And today she's here to share with us some great ideas and tips and tricks. So if anybody has questions along the way, you can use the chat function. You can use the raise hand function at the bottom and we can unmute you as we go, or you can use the Q&A at the bottom. So we want this to be as interactive as possible. If you guys have questions throughout, we will be answering them as we go. So I'm going to be monitoring that for Barb. And away we go. So I'll pass it over to Barb now.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. I'm just going to, I'm just going to get this here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so one of the reasons why, welcome everybody, and feel free to ask any questions throughout. I'd be happy to answer them. And I just want to let you know, one of the reasons why I did start to farm is because I'm not from Toronto, I'm from Vancouver. And so my database isn't the typical university, all the different sports teams I grew up on playing, high school, all that kind of stuff. So it was about after 4 years in real estate, I decided to start the farm. So please, again, feel free to interrupt me, Nicole, if anyone has a question and I don't see it. So the first thing sorry, go ahead.
Will do.
Okay. The first thing I want to talk about is competition. I think the best way to look at competition is that you're in competition with yourself and just improving your skill set and develop yourself. And that's the best way to look at competition. No one is you, and that is your superpower. Of course, we have competition. We have, I think there's 60,000 plus realtors now in the GTA. And so I just wanted to quickly state that when if you're thinking about farming and you're thinking about writing your value proposition, just write down and really assess what your strengths and uniqueness that you bring to your clients are. Like, list your character strengths and your traits and really know what those are. And if you can master expressing your uniqueness, along, of course, with the market knowledge and your skill set, and be able to communicate your unique giftedness, it places you in a position of confident vulnerability. So it's not like you're going in there arrogant or anything like that. You're just going in there really authentic, and that really is your power. And I believe that that's a very powerful position to be when you really know yourself and what it is that you can offer. Technical difficulties already? Seriously? Why is that not moving? Seriously, what do you mean? Oh, okay. Okay. Obviously, thank God I'm not at a computer all day. So consistency is actually my favorite word. I think it's the most important word, other than love, of course, I think is consistency. I think it's a super important quality you can possess. It's a skill that you can learn, and by practicing it daily, whatever goal it is that you want to achieve. So if you want to be successful at work, start by being at your office or your desk computer at 9 a.m. Just that one simple step. Every single day, just commit to being there at 9 a.m. and basically business will follow. So you'll never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret of your success is found in your daily routine. And success doesn't come from what you do occasionally. It comes from what you do consistently. Okay, the reason why I want to talk about this, because I think it's super important before we get into the farming stuff, because this is the stuff actually that makes the biggest difference. So becoming what you want to be. Maybe you want to sell 30 homes this year. So just think about that for a minute. So we become what we want to be by consistently being what we want to become each day. So I just want to talk real quick about outcome-based habits and identity-based habits. So what you're doing now is a mirror image of the type of person you believe you are, either subconsciously or consciously. So to change what it is that you have right now in your life, you need to start believing new things about yourself. And that is, who do you want to be? So you want to sell 30 homes this year, for example. This is an outcome-based goal, and outcomes are what you get. And when it comes to changing something in your life, you need to build identity-based habits. So you do this by start by focusing on who you wish to become. So I want to be a realtor that sells 30 homes a year. So what you're going to do is shift the perspective to the identity-based, and you will wake up early every day and you will be at your desk at 9 a.m. every day. the results will follow. There's two things you need to do here. You need to decide the type of person you want to be, and then you need to prove it to yourself with small wins. And the small win there is 3 days in a row, 4 days in a row, 5 days in a row. You're at your desk and you're doing what you should be doing. The business will follow. So habits. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. This is one of the best business books I've ever read, or life book actually, by James Clear, called Atomic Habits. So your goal is the desired outcome. We're so goal focused. We want to sell this many homes and make this much money. Your system is the collection of your daily habits that will get you there. So when you spend less time focusing on outcomes and more time focusing on your habits, the results will follow. What happens when you get a farm, and how do you maintain a farm? By consistently adding value. And we'll get to some of those strategies later in the presentation. But this is a Bruce Springsteen quote: getting an audience is hard, sustaining an audience is hard. It demands a consistency of thought. So when you think about the people in your farm, think about what keeps homeowners awake at night. An example would be, what's the ROI? What's their return on investment if I do my kitchen and my master bathroom? Or what are the most important renovations I should do to my house to get it ready for sale? Know those things and provide those things. It's a consistency of purpose. Your purpose is to be a valuable resource of information. After all, you are the expert for that pocket or for that neighborhood that you've chosen to farm. And it's a consistency of action over a long period of time. This is not an overnight success story or anything of the sort. It's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of action over a long period of time. And that is communication. And you need to figure out what works for you. And you can't door knock right now. We're not allowed to door knock right now, but there are other ways to communicate: through phone calls, through mailing your newsletter, through mailing postcards. And another example is, what are the top 10 places people are moving to out of the city? So think about those things that your homeowners in your area are thinking about and keeping them up at night. This is my quote. I know Deb Bennett, this is her favorite quote. One time when I was a productivity coach, I remember I was coaching a new agent, and they said, but I drive to the area to door knock, and I get there, I park my car, and I just don't feel like it. Well, guess what? Your bank account doesn't have emotions, and neither do your bills. So once you learn to master what you feel like doing versus what you know you should be doing, that's when your life will change. So that's my favorite quote: success doesn't care what you feel like doing. And this one I just put in here because it's like my favorite quote ever, because it was from my first real job I had. And we were on it was like a Wednesday night. And we had to be at the office at 8 a.m. the next day. And it's really about commitment. And it's, if you're going to howl with the wolves, you got to chirp with the birdies. And when you live in your integrity, that is doing what you promised yourself you do, you become the person you want to be. And life is a lot more enjoyable when you feel this way. So now we're going to get on to geographical farming. Is there anything, Nicole, or are we good to go?
I think we're good for now. So just a reminder, if anybody wants to ask any questions, please add it to the chat.
So for those of you that are new to geographical farming, this is just a quick quote. It's a group of homeowners in a specific community who you do not know, but who you will get to know over time through genuine relationship building and targeted strategies that you will implement on a consistent basis. So before we get into it, before you pick a farm, ask yourself, is it easy for me to get to this area? So will you go? I mean, you kind of need to make it close, in my opinion. I once started a farm about a half an hour away from where I live because I was terrified that I would make a mistake and look silly at the door. So I started my farm 30 minutes from where I live, but most days, I was just like, oh, it's too hard to get there, so I'm not going to go. So make it easy to get to. Do I like the area? Do I believe in the benefits of living there? And more importantly, can you sell those benefits? You really believe in them? What are the demographics? And can I relate to the people that live there? Are they professionals? Are they first-time home buyers? Are they senior citizens? So really look at that and ask yourself if, your personality and your, the things in your life match the homeowners in the area well. I think it's an advantage if it does. It doesn't have to be, but I think it's really important to look at those things. Are there dominant agents already selling? And if so, what will be my value proposition and how am I different? And by the way, we're going to get to this, and it doesn't matter if there's a dominant agent or not. You know, the point is to do it. You do have to like where you start your farm. It's very important. And I'm just going to also add that, you know, don't pick a farm like Bridle Path because there's, you know, 10 or $20 million homes in there. It has to be, if you live there, great, fantastic, but it doesn't work that way. Just pick where you will love and go to. So people always ask me this question, even though I don't pay any attention to either of them, but I'm going to include it because I know this will come up. If you want to calculate a turnover rate in your farm that you're thinking about, in the last 24 months, so just go on Treb and Google the last 24 months, search the last 24 months for homes sold in that particular area. How many homes are in that total area? So you're going to have to get that number through either a Canada Post or, you know, if it's like, I'll give you an example. In my area, there's 600 homes. So it's not a very big area. And I know how many homes are sold because I keep a binder on it. And I know every address is in that binder. So find out the total number of homes, then find out in the last 24 months, how many sold, divide that number, and you get your turnover rate. So for example, last year, 20 homes sold in my area out of 600. So the turnover rate is 3.3%. So the experts would say that that's not high enough to start a farm, but I really don't care what the experts say because I don't think it really matters, to be honest with you. I think if you want to start a farm, you start a farm. Same goes for the dominant agents. Doesn't matter. You know, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, because people resonate with different personality types all the time. And there was a dominant agent in my farm when I started, and I was just different than them. And I made myself different and I sold myself different through my value proposition. Then what you do after you do have a farm, or if you do have a farm now, make sure to calculate your market share because it's a really awesome stat to talk about when you're in a listing presentation. If you could say that 6 out of 9 homes that sold last year were under your name, it's a very powerful stat. So the keys to door knocking. A lot of people ask, you know, what time should I do it? Pick a time that you will do it. That's really the key. I will say that I don't door knock before 11 a.m. I've door knocked on a Saturday before and got yelled at 11 a.m. So I don't door knock Saturdays and Sundays. I usually take those 2 days off. But if I am door knocking, I door knock Monday to Friday, and I start at 11, around anywhere between 11 and 12, and then finish by 2:30. So aim to spend either, this is just a guideline, but aim to spend 2 hours or 100 homes or speak to 30 people. And you got to know your energy max because every day is going to be different. You could spend an hour at the door with somebody that invites you in, and then that's going to eat up a lot of your time. So really know what your goals are for the day that you do go. If you pick a day, commit to it, rain or shine. I actually don't door knock in the rain, but I do in the snow. So it should say snow or shine for me. That's the only time I don't if I've committed to going, just so you know, because I got papers and everything and an umbrella. It's just too complicated. Can't take notes. Anyways, take notes when you go door knocking and ask for contact info. And how you ask for that is in a variety of different ways. So a lot of people will say, well, you know, what did you say when you first started? So when I first started, I always have something with you. I actually had a market watch report that I just printed off. And I said, hi, my name is Barbara Best. I'm with Keller Williams Real Estate, and I'm your neighborhood realtor. My goal is to be of value to you. Should you have any real estate questions? Is there anything I can help you with today? And then I would say, you know, would you like a copy of the latest real estate report? Pretty much everybody says yes when you ask them that. And then I would say, well, would you like to get up-to-date information on past solds and new listings in the area? And most people say, yeah, actually, that would be great. And then you get their email down. And anyways, that's how you get their contact info. Then as I started to get more known in my farm, I would say, hi, my name is Barbara Best with Keller Williams Real Estate. Would you like a copy of my real estate newsletter? And so just so you know, I write my real estate newsletter myself. I don't send it out, and it has the last quarter stats on average, what a semi sold, a town, and a detached, what it sold for. Anyway, sorry. And then I say it shows my past sales in the neighborhood. And would you like to be kept in the loop for past solds and exclusive listings or new listings? And then I would say, well, what about you? Have you considered a move? And of course, there's all sorts of scripts around, that you're working hard for your buyers, and your buyers really want to live in this area. Have you considered a move? One of the ways that I started noticing getting contact info was when I did get my first listing. By the way, it took me 8 months to get my first listing. I went around again and I door knocked and I asked people if they would like to be invited to my wine and cheese. And almost everybody says, well, of course I want to come to a wine and cheese. So I got a lot of emails that way just by saying, do you want to be on our VIP list for the wine and cheese? The last thing I want to say is when I first went out with the Market Watch report, and then the next thing I went out with was the newsletter. And I said, I will see you next quarter if I talk to someone at the door, and that gave myself the accountability to make sure that I did do it. And the other thing is get a door knock partner for accountability and also for fun, because it sure makes those 2 hours a lot more fun. The last thing I'll say on door knocking is mindset. A lot of people say they're nervous because they think that they're bothering people or interrupting their day. Just know that you're there to be of value and answer any of their real estate questions. So you're really just there to help them.
Barb, we actually have a question here in the chat. So it has to do with door knocking and how can you stay safe about door knocking, especially when somebody invites you in to take a look at their house?
Okay, that's a good question. So I often door knock with somebody, just so you know, so I highly recommend that. A lot of times, the recommendation is, if somebody invites you into their house, it's actually best to make an appointment with them to come back, because a lot of people are going to say, well, why don't you come in and tell me what you think my home's worth? But that's going to take a half an hour because they're going to start talking. And, if it's somebody that's bored, they want to offer you tea. And then next thing you know, you've done 5 doors and you haven't hit your door knocking goals. So it's actually best to book an appointment with that person and ask who's going to be at that appointment. So I typically book an appointment when I'm at the door. I mean, now I know the people in the farm, so I'm not at all nervous about that. I live in the area of my farm, so I've never been concerned about that sort of thing. But I know when I first started practicing door knocking, we'd go to different areas and that was a concern. And it's highly advisable, just, book the appointment and go with somebody if you have any concern, like use your senses.
Perfect. We have another question here for how you track doors opened. So are you tracking to see if you missed a door or somebody didn't open? And then are you kind of going back to those doors the following day or later on?
That's a good question. So I have a binder. I'm a bit old school. I'm not up on the technology, but anyways, I have a binder that's in quadrants and it has everybody's name. And I take my pen and my binder with me. And so if I look and if it, I take notes that say, do not knock, like, cause I've had people say, I like your newsletter, but please don't knock, it wakes the dog or whatever. So I'll leave the newsletter there. If I miss a door and I know the person that's in there and I missed it that day, I'll write on my newsletter, hey, sorry, I missed you. Hope you're well. Enjoy or whatever, something like that. I'll just write a quick note, Barb, sorry, I missed you, Barb. And then I'll leave it in the mailbox. So I don't go back the next day to door knock that particular door, but they know I was there. I want them to know I was there. So I keep notes in my binder for every door that I knock. And if somebody says to me, hey, I'm thinking about maybe moving in about a year, then I know I'm going to, follow up with them in 3 months type of thing. And did you want to do a kitchen reno? Like all sorts of, you find reasons to ask those questions. Was that the question, Nicole? Was there something else there?
Yeah, I think
okay.
that answers it. If you have a follow-up question, feel free to add it to the chat. We have a few more actually, so I'll just kind of ask them as we go. When you are at the door, do you always ask for business? So for example, are you asking, do you know of anyone that's looking to make a move?
Yeah, I do actually. Well, I usually just ask them. I don't usually say, unless they say, no, we're not moving, forever, or kids are going to be in high school, blah, blah, blah. I'll say, have you heard of any neighbors that you've thought about a move? Because I actually have a couple of buyers that are really looking to get into this neighborhood. And because it is kind of an exclusive neighborhood, it's the truth. I always have somebody, generally speaking, I always have somebody looking to get in and we don't have any listings. So the occasional time somebody will say, oh yeah, I think so-and-so, you kind of hear that sometimes, but I do, there's been times where I've been at the door talking and then I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot them to ask if they're thinking about a move. So it has to be a cognizant thing in your head all the time. Ask the question, have you yourself thought about a move? Or, have you thought about, I've got a lot of clients right now buying condos for their kids for when they hit university. Have you thought about that second property because of how much equity you have in your house? So you're always thinking of different ways to ask those kind of questions to get business. And you just do it in your own authentic way. I don't, I did all the scripts and learned all the scripts, and you just basically put your own personality to them.
That's perfect. Awesome. And to go back to kind of when you're door knocking with somebody else, who are you generally door knocking with? Are you going with another realtor, a mortgage partner, a new rookie at the office? Who do you normally bring with you?
I've done all of that actually. I had a mortgage broker that I did it with for years, and the goal was to give her the business for the for any refinances or any buyers that I have. She would be the first person that I would refer buyer business to. And she lived in the area and we were friends, and she wanted to come, and it was fantastic. I started with another agent, a couple of different agents I'd go with. And then it went to the mortgage broker. And then I've gone with, mentoring people. I've taken them to my farm area. And then a couple of times I've taken my assistant with me because it's just a lot more fun. I've gone alone too. It's just not that fun. I just really like going with someone. I don't know. It's sort of a confidence booster too. I just find that it's easier to get out there, put it that way.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks. And we have another question. So when you are door knocking, do you still door knock everyone that you've met in your farm, even if they've never expressed any interest in buying or selling?
Absolutely, I do. I do that because they are what are called VIPs. And those people are the people that love you, but haven't done business with you, but refer you. And they are very powerful in your farm. These are the people that come to your wine and cheese open houses and stay the entire time and just chat with you. Because they're curious about, what the home looks like, what they should do to their home, what's the market like. And they're just friendly people, and they are very good referral sources. So yes, I enjoy knocking on those ones. Those are the fun ones. You got to break it up because not everybody loves you at the door. Got a few grumpy people.
Yeah, you knock on enough doors, you're going to get some grumpy.
Yeah, and I write that down. I put, oh, grumpy old man. And then grumpy old man called me last year to sell his house, which is really funny. But like that stuff happens. It's pretty funny. The notes. I hope nobody ever finds my binder. Just kidding. Be careful where you put your notes. I don't put that anymore. I just put like do not knock, or just wants to leave the newsletter. And then GOM is grumpy old man.
Perfect. And what happens if you've kind of knocked multiple times, but they're reluctant to either give you their name, or you've tried asking multiple times? How much are you pushing back?
Oh, if they don't want to give me their name, then they don't know what they're missing. And that's really how you have to look at it. It's like, move on to the next one that does. Not everyone's going to love you, and not everyone's going to do business with you. And everybody knows a realtor. And, if they do know a realtor already, then just be their second choice, be their second opinion. And that's all you can offer them, is to say, hey, I think it's really important to get a second opinion. Oh, your nephew just got licensed. Oh, fantastic. Great. Well, it's a $2 million home. Make sure you get that second opinion. It's your largest financial asset. You just say it in a nice way. Offer to co-list with the nephew. There's all sorts of things you can do, but I don't push it if they have said many times that they don't, that's just not my style.
Awesome. And one last question, then we'll continue on. At what point are you moving these leads into a database?
Immediately. Oh, after I door knock, they immediately go in there. If that's what you mean.
Yeah, I think that is the question. And it's just obviously, and then you're kind of systematically dripping on them, and we'll get into that in a little bit as well.
Yeah. And if they've made a mention about, I'll talk about some strategies, but excuse me, if they've made a mention about, well, we're thinking of redoing our kitchen, and, I'll mention that I have a designer that I work with, that if you'd like to book her, you could, or I'll the next day I'll drop a kitchen renovation magazine off. I did a lot of that stuff in my first 2 years, really, really trying hard to be of value and come from contribution and really just genuinely build the relationship and be there for them.
Awesome. Perfect. I think that's all the questions we have for now. So you can continue.
Okay. So I'll get into why you should farm, or why I think it's a great idea to farm. So most people have their database as their main source of income, and adding a second source of income basically gives you a raise. And we are all entrepreneurs, so why not give yourself a raise? You can gain a competitive advantage. Less than 1% of realtors door knock or have a geographical farm. So it really gives you that competitive advantage. And from a marketing standpoint, it really keeps you top of mind. It also, I believe, protects you in volatile markets. I noticed last year during COVID, people really referred to the expert in the area, so to speak, in times of stress, like the pandemic. And also I dealt with a lot of people that were getting a divorce, and I was called into a lot of those kind of appointments. And it was mostly in my farm. And last year, my farm made up the majority of my income, which I'll talk about later. It allows you to gain knowledge and expertise. When you can demonstrate that you understand what buyers want in the houses in that particular area, for example, what rentals they should do, you become a very valuable resource. So just over time, you'll start understanding the buyer demographics and the buyer psychographics, which is their lifestyle, and you come from a real place of knowledge when you're walking into a listing appointment and you already know, boom, 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 what the buyers want that are buying in this area and why. You build brand recognition and credibility. Probably the most important thing about farming is because you become, over time, with consistency, you become the go-to realtor, and people at their door when you're delivering the newsletter, they say things like, I see you everywhere, I see your signs everywhere. And eventually you become kind of like the mayor of your farm. And recognition translates to a strong perception of value, and therefore commission objections rarely come up because they want your sign in the lawn. Skill development and improving your confidence. With consistent action and practice, like you're constantly practicing, because people will call you in for CMAs and things like that. They'll call you for advice and information, and eventually for listings, and your conversion rate increases. So it actually, having a farm has made me a better agent in my database business. That makes sense. Having a farm is a very efficient use of time. I love walking to my appointments, and especially when we were hopefully allowed to do open houses one day soon, walking to the open houses. And last but not least, again, another really important point is you're seen as the local area expert. You get word of mouth referrals, and those are from the VIP people I was telling you about that haven't done business, might not ever do business. They may be there forever, but if they're in a conversation with somebody about real estate, they're saying your name and they want your sign in the lawn. So going back to why you should farm and adding an additional pillar of income. So let's say, as an example, let's say you want to give yourself a raise. Let's say, for example, that your average annual income is $150,000. The average sale price in Toronto is almost $1 million now. And the average commission per deal is $25,000. So it took me 8 months to get my first listing. And then the very next week, I got my second listing because of that first listing. And that will happen. It will snowball if you keep consistent with it. So you sell one home, you've increased your income by 25K, 4 homes, as you can see, 250. And then you will sell 8 homes if you keep consistent with it in your farm, and you've given yourself a 43% raise. And I know Nicole said a stat at the beginning of the presentation, and just to give you an idea, last year I did 40 transactions, 12 were buyers, 28 were sellers. So 70% of my business was sellers, 30% buyers. And 70% of my income came from my farm. However, my database accounts for the highest number of transactions. So basically, because my farm has a higher price point per deal, is why my income is what it is. So hopefully that made sense. I really hope it did. I hope I explained that. Just wanted to show you how powerful having a farm can be to your income. Is there any questions on that? I hope that wasn't too confusing.
No, that makes sense. We have a few questions, but I'll save them actually just because I think we covered in the next slide.
Okay. Give yourself a raise. Okay.
Well, actually, we do have one that was kind of related. You kind of mentioned that it took about 8 months to get your first listing when you became an agent. What point did you feel really confident in being an agent in that area?
Oh, I wasn't confident at all. I have to tell you, I was terrified. I'm not gonna, oh yeah, I won't make it up. I was pretty nervous when I first went out there. I went out alone for my first door knocking. And you know, I had gone to so many Keller Williams courses on door knocking and farming. I was like, I have to try this. And I remember it was snowing. And you know, just to give you the idea, I mean, I was terrified, and I came to the office, I printed out a hot pink flyer with, you know, I made the flyer and I delivered it. I spent about an hour and a half. It was snowing. It was really cold. And I got back to the office and a lady had paged me, and I thought, oh my God, it's that easy. I'm going to get my first listing. She called to tell me that I had a typo on my flyer. And she was kind of like, you know, pretty judgy about it. I was like, oh my God, I was absolutely mortified. But, you know, I just kept going. And I remember after the second time I went out with the newsletter, I remember feeling, why is it everybody else gets listings from door knocking and I haven't? And it wasn't, I felt like, you know, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this, but I'm going to keep doing it because, you know, I woke up one day and I thought, you know, I'm just going to keep doing this to prove I'm going to give myself a year, and I'm going to at least say I did this and I tried and I gave it my best. And from now on, I thought, okay, that's it. I don't care if I make any money from this. I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, come from value and contribution. And I'm just going to keep doing it for a year and see what happens. So as soon as I shifted to that mindset of I don't care if I get a listing, I'm just going to keep doing this and make friends in the farm. And I was just so much lighter and just, I felt way better about it. And I just basically have heard the saying, detach from the outcome. I think I didn't know that saying at the time, but that's what I did. And that's when really everything changed, when I just thought, I'm just going to go make friends with people. I'm just going to be the most awesome, valuable resource for them that I can think of, that I can be. So yeah, it took me 8 months, and confidence is a learned skill. And, you know, I may have been confident in other areas of my life at the time, but I certainly wasn't confident about starting a farm with, you know, some teams in the beach that had been there for 30 years or 20 years. And I was going up against them, you know, and that's why I started the presentation out with no one is you, and that's your superpower. Once you really know who you are and what you have to offer, that's how you beat out the competition.
Awesome. And just a clarifying question. It was 8 months until you got your first sale in your farm.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. I door knocked this lady, and then she gave me her email because she wanted to know sold prices, and a home had sold. Oh, she gave me her email, and then the very next day a home had sold down the street for, you know, a really high amount. So I emailed her and she said, can you come in? It was like a Tuesday. She said, can you come in on Saturday and meet with my husband and I? We want to sell our house. And I was actually supposed to go on an in-law trip, and I canceled it. So I mean, that was pretty funny. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't go. I have to do this listing. And then the neighbor across the street came over to my open house, and then that's when it started. And then, you know, you start getting more confident because you did a really good job, and you know you did a good job, and then the confidence just kind of builds, and then you just keep going.
Awesome. Perfect. We can continue on, and then I'll save some questions for the end.
Okay. So this is how I built my farm. So yeah, it was 5 years ago. And I hired my first assistant November 1st. And that's when I decided I was also going to start door knocking. And when you make that step, it's a definite leap of faith in yourself, because you're taking on the responsibility of paying somebody, and you know, you got to get business. And what that allowed me to do is actually go spend time in the field and do the things, you know, that we are supposed to do, which is living in our strengths, whatever those may be for you. So that's kind of how that all started. And what I did was, like I said, the very first time I went out, I had a market watch report because I really didn't know what else to bring with me. All I knew is I needed to bring a clipboard and a pen and take down some notes of people that I met at the door. And I decided I was going to do that once per quarter. Again, these are all things I learned through the Keller Williams courses. So that's what I first did. I printed out the market watch, and then I did my own flyer with some, a few past sales. And then I realized people did really like getting these things. So then I created a newsletter, and my mortgage broker on the back of it would have all her information about interest rates and refinancing and utilizing equity in your home and things like that. So when we went out, we had all this valuable information to give. So I did that for about a year, and people always ask, well, what did you spend? I really didn't spend anything because it was just my time. And I printed out a newsletter, a couple $100. So for the first year, I really didn't spend that much money at all. And then what I did in year 2 is I added a postcard, and on the postcard, I would put my listings and sometimes I'd put solds, or, sometimes I'd feature a business in the area, but I always kept the front of my postcard consistent, which is anyone can tell you what your home is worth. I'd like to tell you what your home could be worth. Call me for my, blah, blah, blah. So then after year 2, I added a monthly postcard, and then you start learning kind of what works. And then I started doing, some pop buys. So when I'd go door knocking, I'd bring a Leafs fridge magnet with me, a Leafs calendar. Maybe I got these branded pens. I don't know if you can see them. Anyways, this pen, it came by accident in this size, which ended up being hilarious because everybody wanted one of these pens, and they're really popular at my open houses as well. So just do fun things, branded things. Like I said, that pen was like $1. Then I would sponsor, I had an opportunity to sponsor a laneway barbecue. And then another thing I did was, just think of creative things that you could do for the people in your farm. And this one was a snow angels program. So on a flyer, I had a picture of someone doing a snow angel in the snow, and said, if you can't shovel your walk this winter, give us a call and we will arrange to have it shoveled, because there's some older people in our farm, and people love that. So we did get a few calls and shoveled people's walks. So it's just, again, a value thing. This year we did the winter clothing drive for KW. And anybody that donated clothing would receive a Starbucks thank you for making a difference in the lives of others, just like a small Starbucks card. And they all went into our database as well. And I didn't do it to get them in our database. They're pretty much already in there anyways, because they're in my farm. But we just wanted to give them a thank you card as, for doing that. The one thing I'll say is I sure hope wine and cheese and open houses come back, because it's such a great way to meet people and really showcase your value. And when I'd get a listing, I always had a wine and cheese open house for neighbors only, from Thursday from 6 to 8. I had anywhere from 20 to 60 people that would come to these from my farm. We would hand out invitation postcards. We do it about 2 to 3 days before the actual open house. And we always had a really good turnout. And then, because we can't do open houses, what have I been doing to kind of maintain my farm is COVID calls, keeping you in the loop calls, and mailers. I also did a Leafs calendar, even though it's a shortened season, but I did it anyways. Yeah, any questions about, I know that kind of went through that.
Yeah. So I guess for the farm database, the keeping you in the loop, what do those calls look like? Is that keeping you in the loop about listings and sales in the area, events that are happening, or not that there's many events?
Yeah. So I have in my binder, I have all the phone numbers, and I have the emails of the people that I do. So I literally went from street to street to street, and I would say, hi, so-and-so, this is Barbara Best calling. I'm just calling to let you know about that record-breaking price that happened last night, or it happened on Monday, because you can't call everybody in the binder on the very next day. So I called everybody to let them know, because the market is just like insanity right now. It's super hot, and everybody wants to know that their home just increased in value from like 4 months ago. So those are really fun phone calls to make. nobody's mad that you've called them that day. I've had great phone calls this year as a result. So those are the keeping you, I just want to keep you in the loop. And then I'd say something like, hey, just a quick question. I know a lot of people are kind of thinking about moving out of the city or getting that second property. Have you thought of that? Just curious. Like it's just all organic now, right? It's just a conversation. And they'll be like, well, no, I haven't really thought about it. And one lady, I said to her, if I could get you, a price that would, I can't remember how I said it, but something about, because she sounded like she was thinking about it. And she said, well, if you could get me close to what, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, why don't I come and see your home? Anyways, and then that just all evolved into a listing. So it does work.
Perfect. And we have a question in the chat here in the Q&A. For someone who's starting that's brand new, how much should they be budgeting to spend on their farm?
Yeah, so I mentioned when I first started, I didn't spend anything. I mean, it was literally a couple of $100 to print out a newsletter. I printed out Market Watch. So, you just print it out in black and white and you're hand delivering everything. You're not using postage. When you start using postage, obviously that gets very expensive. And when you start doing a postcard through Canada Post, you're probably looking at a couple of $1,000s a month. So, but when I first started, it was literally, let's say a newsletter costs you, $300. Well, $300 times 4, like $1,200 for the first year is all I spent.
Perfect. So there's
yeah, you just, and we can't door knock right now, but you can certainly drop things off. You can drop it off for free.
Right. And on that note, have you ever hired a company to deliver the flyers or are you doing it yourself?
Actually, I don't really do flyers anymore. I did do them for the Snow Angel program. And the Snow Angel program, we delivered them ourselves and we door knocked with them because it was such a fun thing to offer.
Perfect.
I wanted to see people say, oh, wow, you're going to shovel my walk. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to, but I'm going to hire someone to, or, I mean, I could, but I mean, if we got a bunch of requests, we have to hire it. Right. So, and when I delivered it, I met a lady that owned a house in the farm. And she said, oh, my son would love to do that. So we ended up getting her number for her son to shovel the walk. So it all just was a happy, happy story.
Awesome. Perfect. When you're making your COVID calls and you're keeping you in the loop calls, are you leaving a voicemail if they don't answer?
Yes, absolutely. I'm calling them with such great news. They will call me back. People want to know what's going on in the real estate market. It is a very hot topic right now. People just want to know what's going to happen. Do you think this is going to be sustainable? What do you think the market's going to do? Do you think the government's going to come up with a special announcement to cool the market like they did in 2017? What do you think my house is worth now that this one down the street sold for $1 billion? Well, yours is worth almost $1 billion. That actually did. Somebody actually did say that. So like, you have fun with it, right? Like just be yourself and have fun with it and get them excited about it. There's a lot of people sitting there that they're thinking about it.
Perfect. Awesome. I think that's all the questions for now.
It says Maurice Hyde raised a hand on my screen. Are we good?
Yeah. So Maurice, if you just want to actually just add your question into the chat and I'll private message you now.
Because we're almost done anyways, Nicole, just to let you know.
Sounds good.
Okay. What's that?
I'll let you finish up and then I'll compile some questions for you.
Okay, not the greatest photo of me, but anyways, the whole point is being authentic. And once you step into your authentic self, that is where the magic begins. And when you believe that you truly are the best person to help someone sell their home, you become believable. Be yourself, be real, be genuine, the business will follow. And one of the ways that I do market myself, I think, and I hope authentically, is through social media. So for example, I posted this on Instagram that I actually was vacuuming my client's condo because they asked me to vacuum after it was staged. And I'm like, sure, I'll go vacuum your condo. I'm good with that. I had to see it anyway. So I posted a photo. Hey, I go above and beyond for my clients. So I'm just keeping it real. I don't vacuum at home. So I figure I'm not actually allowed to vacuum at home. So I figure I might as well vacuum for my clients. And that, my friends, is the shortened version of farming. So happy to answer questions.
So a couple of questions. The do not call list, are you mostly compiling the phone numbers from people that you've spoken with, or have you ever bought a call list for the area?
I've never bought a call list for the area. No.
What else do we have here? Follow-up question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just going to say, I mean, it takes time to get the contact info. It's probably taken, 3 to 4 years to get all these numbers and emails over time, over all those door knocking. And don't forget, I get everyone's number at the open house, the wine and cheese, at all the open houses. So I'm always getting I was obsessed about getting contact info. Can I get your number? I want to make sure that you know the sold price. Sometimes emails, bounce back. Can I get your phone number? So I was very obsessive about making sure I got both the email and the phone number.
Perfect. And to your point, it's like farming, it's a longer term strategy. Like it does take time to actually build those relationships and develop your position in the community. So it's not really like an overnight, try it for a month and then give up kind of thing.
Yeah. And, I have seen a lot of people, I've been out door knocking. I've seen people door knocking the same day as me. And I'm like, uh-oh, someone's coming in. But and then I never see them again. And I know one woman came in and left chocolates with her business card. And I saw someone in the street like the next day and they're like, hey, Barb, thanks for the chocolates. I'm like, what? And then I remembered that I'd seen these chocolates in the mailbox and I was like, because I saw the business card. So, hey, you know what? Like, people just think it's you because you're there. You get a listing and you send someone a listing. They think it's your listing when it could be another agent's, right? So it's a strength of perception thing. When you're always there, they just think it's you.
Yeah, perfect. And a follow-up to leaving a voicemail. Are you telling them what you called about, or are you asking them to call you back?
I think it depends on how well I know them. I'm just trying to think. I think it depends. Like if I've seen them at the door, I know them really well because they come to my wine and cheese, I'll leave a message and say, hey, I'm just calling you about the sold price at, 137 Boardwalk. It went for a record selling price. Give me a shout back. I'd love to catch up with you, or, I'd try them again. Or if it was someone I didn't know well, I might, if I didn't get them, I'd leave a voicemail and I'd send them a quick email as well and let them know about the record breaking sale price. And then I'd say something like, hey, if you want to chat, give me a call type of thing. So I'm just like keeping in touch with them. I'm not obsessed about connecting with them per se. Just want them to know that I tried to get them by phone. And then I always follow up with an email as well, just so they know. And most people, if they don't want to call you back or don't have time to call you back, they will respond to your email. That's what I found.
Great. We also just have a question more clarifying about what a wine and cheese is.
Well, I like to say it's like I'm going to hold a party in your house and you're not invited. That's kind of what a wine and cheese is. In all seriousness, the reason why I do it is because I want to meet the neighbors aside from the actual open house on Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 4. The neighbors then in turn feel special because I'm doing a neighbors only. It is literally for neighbors only, or if any of their friends want to live in the area, it's like a sneak peek. So they get to see it before anybody else. And I usually only buy 1 bottle of red and 1 bottle of white. This is not a party. I was kidding about that. This is about having a glass of wine, because otherwise you do get some people that, want to sit there and, hoard the wine. So I just usually just say, I have 1 bottle of red, 1 bottle of white. What would you like? And people stay in the kitchen for it. They don't wander around the house with their wine. If you had any questions about that. And really it's for me to get a chance to meet potential homeowners in the area. And it also gives them a chance to get to know me. And everybody seems so much, calmer. They don't feel pressured. Like at an open house, we're like, okay, can you sign in? And what's your address? And where do you live? And what's your address? People are like, whoa. Whereas at the neighbors wine and cheese, they feel like they've been invited to something. And of course, they're going to give you that info. And maybe after the open house on Saturday, you could pop by and tell me what you think my home is worth. So it's just a much friendlier, relaxed way to meet people. And then you get a following because people look forward to your wine and cheeses. They want to come and see the latest house. That's, not everybody wants you to do a wine and cheese, and that's fine. But if it helps bring you more buyers and get them the most amount of money, they're going to let you do it. Just think you have to be smart about how you do it. Buying one bottle of red and one bottle of white.
Perfect.
I learned my lesson at a condo open house I did in my building, and a lady just drank a lot and spilled wine on the kitchen floor. Thank God it didn't like stain anything, but I realized, hey, one glass per person is good. People are pretty good.
Yeah. And do you ever have any pushback from sellers that maybe don't want you to host a wine and cheese?
There's been people, what's in it for them? Oh, it brings in, a lot of people want their friends and their family and their coworkers to live in the same area as them. So it gives them a sneak peek into it. So it's not really like, it's not just for the neighbors. If the neighbors know someone that wants to live in the area, they can bring them. So it's, it's just exposure. It's more exposure for them. There's some sellers that are like, I don't want my neighbors snooping around in my house. They can come on Saturday and Sunday, and that's fine. But I'd say, easily 95% of people said, no, I want you to do that neighbors wine and cheese. Because a lot of times people know people that want to live in the area, and they go tell their friends, and then they show up, or they come on Saturday and Sunday. It happens a lot, actually.
Yep. And so you had kind of mentioned that in some farms, some people might be deterred if there's already big agents there or big teams. How can you set yourself apart when you're competing against somebody that maybe has been there for 20 or 30 years?
So if you go back to my very first slide, that's when you got to really do your self-work and your self-analysis about, what it is that you bring to the table. And, at first I was like, oh my God, like I haven't sold a $2 million house. Why would anyone hire me? I just was selling condos because I lived in one. Again, it's a real mindset, and you really have to dig deep and go, I just got tired of seeing this agent sign on these lawns that I have to go run by. When I go for my run, I want to see my sign. Why is their sign there? Well, their sign is there because they don't know who I am, and that's my fault. So if I'm going to give this a shot, I got to get myself out there and get out of my comfort zone and just do it. And, just have that kind of self-talk. And the first thing I thought was, well, I'm definitely going to care more than anyone else, because, oh my God, if I got a $1.5 million listing, oh my God, like this is going to be all I focus on, because I'm not a team and I don't have 10 listings at a time. And that became my value proposition. Do you want personalized service, the care and attention that your listing and your largest financial asset deserves? Or do you want someone that's going to send somebody in, and do your open house, and someone else is going to come in and answer calls, and you might show up on negotiation night, or, the listing person shows up on negotiation night and that's it? Or do you want a person, a single point of contact that's going to care throughout the entire process? This is, after all, your largest financial asset. So I'm accountable to it. And that became my value prop.
Awesome. I'll choose just a couple more. We are wrapping up here.
Oh, this is so fun.
I know, right? We can just go all day. We have a couple questions about which CRM you're using.
Oh, don't ask me technical questions. Command.
KW Command. And how many homes do you recommend when you're starting a farm? So I know you mentioned that your farm is about 600 homes.
Yep. So honestly, start with one street. This was the advice given to me years ago. Start with one street and own it. What I mean by that is just go do it, and you just keep doing it. And as soon as you get a bite, you're going to go to town on that listing. And when I say go to town on that listing, I mean, you market the heck out of it. You're doing postcards, and you just go to town on that one listing and make sure everybody in that area knows that you have that listing, and just market it like crazy. So to answer that question, I think you need to start small to get big. And, I've only ever had 600 homes in my farm. There's 2,000 condos in my farm, but obviously I can't door knock a condo, but there's 600 homes. And I think it really depends on the price point as well. Like if your farm in your area is $600,000 price point versus $1 million versus $2 million, kind of look at that. And, but I do think starting small to get big is the way to go. Just own that one street at a time, and the rest will follow.
Great.
People say the average is like 1,000 homes, by the way. Like that's what the experts say. Don't go, like some experts say start with 1,000, and then other people say, oh, you should have a farm, you should have like 2,000, 3,000, but that gets very expensive. And are you going to be able to door knock all that? It takes me a full week to get through my entire neighborhood. That's Monday to Friday. That's a minimum of 2 hours a day to deliver my newsletters.
Yep. And for somebody that's starting out their farm now in this COVID world, when we can't really door knock, is it still a good idea for them to start flyering the neighborhood that they want to kind of solidify? Or would you kind of hold off until you can do everything at once?
I think it's a great idea I think it's an opportunity to start a farm because nobody else is doing it. Nobody. And I would hand deliver them. Obviously, you don't want to make contact with people at the door, or you don't want to see them. I don't know, wear gloves when you deliver your newsletter. I don't know if that's a concern for people or not. I really don't know, or you can, I just think you can do it. And I think it's an opportunity because I don't think it's happening right now. And you could just say, I can't wait until I can deliver my quarterly newsletter and meet you at your door. I'm just here to be of value and provide you the latest real estate information. Please call me. I'm always here for you. We can set up a Zoom call to discuss. I can do a Zoom listing appointment if you want. Just make yourself available virtually.
Awesome.
I think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we just have one more minute, so I'm going to ask one more question. If there's anything that we didn't get to, I'm going to put my email in the chat. So feel free to email me your questions and I can ask Barb and then we can get back to you as well. So the last question is, do you mind just repeating what your door knocking script is? So what are you saying at the door?
Oh yeah, I wrote a couple of down actually, because when I first started, my script is different now. I'm like, hey, I'm back. Are you selling yet? Now I make a joke of it, but it took me years to get to that. But my very first one was, hi, my name is Barbara Best. Like they opened the door. My name is Barbara Best. I'm with Keller Williams Real Estate. I said Keller Williams Real Estate because not everyone knew what Keller Williams Advantage meant. So I said Keller Williams Real Estate. Hey, I'm your neighborhood realtor and my goal is to be of value to you. I remember one guy, I said, I'm your neighborhood realtor. And he's like, you are? So just kind of go with it. Don't worry about what people say, just keep going. And, my goal is just to be of value to my neighbors. I live here too. And I'd love to, answer any real estate questions that you might have over the next little while. And I just wanted to drop off my newsletter. It has my email and my phone number. And depending on how they work is like, literally, like, I'd be like freaking out. They'd be like, oh, thank you so much. Cause they probably saw that I was nervous. And then I'd say, just out of curiosity, I was just wondering if you thought about a move. And then that's how it goes. And if you just ask that question, nobody gets mad. They're just like, yes or no. Awesome. Yeah, it's actually nothing to be afraid of. And I think the best way to say it is, what's that saying? It's easy, but not simple or something like that. It's consistency. That's really what it is at the end of the day. You can't do it occasionally. You got to do it consistently. And if you stick with it, business will follow.
Perfect. On that note, thank you so much, Barb. That was so helpful. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Like I mentioned, I just put my email in the chat. So if you have anything that we weren't able to cover, I know the Q&A is kind of blowing up. So please reach out to us.
It is. Can't we stay? No, this is so fun. Because it got to end, doesn't it?
Got to end
sometime, but you know what? I'm happy to answer any questions. Nicole, send them away. And, if you guys want to do a follow-up session, I'm happy to do that too, because there's so much more to cover, but I know we only had an hour.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining. That was so fun.
Yes,
I wish I could see everyone's faces. Okay.
Okay. Bye. Have a good day, everybody.